Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Ansongole, and I'm just glad to have you here. I see a few people that I know. It's really great to have you all here. And today, in this webinar, we're going to examine the role of renewable energy associations in advancing productive use of renewable energy in East Africa and, of course, in the continent. Through the experiences of renewable energy associations in the region, we have colleagues from Kenya, Uganda, we have colleagues from Ethiopia, we're expecting someone from Rwanda. We'll look at what is already happening on the ground to advance pure policies and investments. And by pure, we mean productive use of renewable energy, as well as enablers for this and opportunities for collaboration. And we'll anchor mechanisms like Mission 300 to see how associations do come in within this. And so the webinar will be for about an hour and we'll actually focus on pure. And when we talk about productive use of renewable energy, we know the term has many meanings and is mainly understood within context. But for majority of those who lack access to electricity and energy and are located in off and weak grid areas, productive use of renewable energy facilitates income generating activities and improves the atmospheric climate in the sector. There's a strong and proven connection between increased commercial energy consumption and improved human welfare. And when we talk about pure appliances, we include industrial, agricultural, and commercial appliances. And so without further ado, I will move to just tell you a bit about the webinar. We'll have an introduction section. We'll have panelists speaking, and we'll have a presentation by Engineer George Nyongayo, who's a policymaker at the Ministry of Energy in Kenya. Then we'll have a number of questions to the association or the association representatives, and then we'll have a Q&A towards the end. And so without further ado, I'd like to invite our colleagues to introduce themselves. Perhaps I could start with you, Paddy. You can just introduce yourself, your name, the association you work with, and of course the role you hold. And please put your camera on just for when we're speaking.
Okay, thank you very much, and to our listeners and everyone on the call. My name is Paddy Wakengana. I am the Senior Programs Associate of the Uganda Solar Energy Association. I'm also the PUE lead, just like she has said, Productive Use of Renewable Energy lead at the Uganda Solar Energy Association. I am very glad to be here and happy to hear from you, happy to learn from you. Maybe in the next few minutes, I'll be presenting a few things and happy to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's really good to have you, Paddy. Yemi, could you go ahead?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Yemi Sisai. I am from the Ethiopian Solar Energy Development Association. I am the general manager of the association. Thank you for having me.
Okay. All right. It's great to have you, Yemi. Cynthia, I don't know, there's a problem. We keep trying to add you to be a panelist. Could you introduce yourself? Okay. Cynthia, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm having a bit of a challenge with my network. I'm not in the office. Attending another meeting. So my name is Cynthia Muhati. I am the CEO of Kenya Renewable Energy Association. That is KEREA, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah. So KEREA is Can you hear me properly?
Yeah, Cynthia, what do you do at KEREA? You're the CEO of KEREA, right?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
so what I do in KEREA is I focus on policy advocacy matters, regulatory engagement in the private sector, and also partnerships within and without. And I say within is within the country, but also without in terms of regionally with some of our partners that you're seeing here. And just to ensure that we are able to make sure that you have enabling environment. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Cynthia. It's good to have you here. We've heard from Paddy, we've heard from Yemi, we've heard from Cynthia. Perhaps you'll give you a chance to introduce yourself, Engineer Nyongayo, as we move into your session, where you'll just be telling us about how you work on Pure and how you work with associations on this. Thank you.
Oh, sorry for that. My name is Engineer George Nyongayo. I work at the State Department for Energy in the division dealing with energy efficiency. Thank you very much.
Okay. Great. Sorry about that. I think it's your, yeah. Okay, so at this juncture, Engineer Nyongayo, you can just proceed to tell us a bit about how you work with associations in the ministry, and of course, the work that you do on Pure. And you can also tell us a bit about what you foresee as some of the opportunities for this. For all of you attendees, panelists, this is a session that will take about 10 minutes, and we're going to frame this discussion from here. Thank you. Over to you, Engineer Nyongayo.
Thank you very much, Anne. It is indeed my honor to join you today as we reflect on the critical role played by renewable energy associations in advancing the Pure agenda in Kenya. At a time when our region is striving to accelerate economic growth, climate resilience, and energy access for all, Pure stands at the intersection of energy development. It shifts the narrative from energy merely as a social good to energy as a powerful economic enabler. Across East Africa, renewable energy has transformed lives by expanding electricity access, but we realize that access alone is not enough. And the real transformation happens when energy powers businesses, agro-processing, irrigation, cold storage, manufacturing, and small enterprises. So renewable energy associations across our region have become indispensable drivers of this transformation. Their role goes far beyond advocacy, and this includes policy partners to governments, knowledge hubs for innovation and standards, market development, capacity building, and conveners of public-private dialogue. And now the State Department for Energy, in recognition of this role, the role of strong collaboration with renewable energy associations in strengthening policy formulation, regulatory frameworks, and accelerating market uptake of clean energy technologies. So renewable energy associations play 4 critical roles in advancing Pure agenda in Kenya and East Africa. The first one is policy and regulatory advocacy. We note that associations provide structured engagement within industry and government. They help shape policies that incentivize renewable energy applications. And we know that their technical expertise ensure that regulations are practical, investor-friendly, and aligned with national development priorities. The second one is market development and investor confidence. Here we note that by organizing industry platforms and regional fora, associations reduce market fragmentation. They provide credible market intelligence that de-risk investments and attract both local and international financing into Pure technologies. In doing so, they catalyze scaling up of Pure enterprises that create jobs and increase incomes. The third one is capacity building and skills development. Pure cannot succeed without skilled technicians, financiers, and entrepreneurs. And we note that associations coordinate training, certification, and standards, ensuring quality assurance and consumer protection while building local expertise. And this strengthens trust in renewable energy technologies and therefore promotes uptake of Pure technologies. The fourth one is regional integration and knowledge exchange. And we note that East Africa benefits from shared ecosystems, similar climatic conditions, and comparable development challenges. And we note that renewable energy associations facilitate cross-border learning harmonization of standards, and regional value chains. So such collaborations align well with the objective of the East African community in promoting regional integration and economic cooperation. So we note that PUA is not just about electricity, it is about livelihoods. It is about empowering farmers with solar-powered irrigation systems, enabling fishers to access cold storage, support women-led micro-enterprises with renewable energy supply, thus allowing rural manufacturers to compete in national and regional markets. So as government, we must continue to create enabling environments through fiscal incentives, blended finance instruments, clear regulatory pathways, and supportive standards. But this we realize we cannot accomplish alone. So RE associations are strategic partners in driving the transition from energy access to energy-driven economic transformation. And in recognition of this, the State Department of Energy has been collaborating with renewable energy associations to advance PUA agenda. And we note that the State Department has been collaborating with KEREA and GOGLA to promote PUA, to formulate the national roadmap in scaling up productive use of renewable energy. And we hope we'll do the PUA strategy. So in Kenya, as Kenya continues to implement its energy transition agenda, we remain committed to strengthening partnerships with industry associations in the region. Together, we can scale up productive use technologies, mobilize investments, and ensure renewable energy becomes a catalyst for inclusive growth and industrialization in East Africa. And finally, I wish to commend all renewable energy associations represented here for their dedication and leadership and commitment to sustainable development. Your work is accelerating not only energy transition, but also economic transformation across our region. Let us continue work together to unlock the full potential of PUA for the prosperity of our people. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Nyongayo. And indeed, we've really had the four key areas that associations have been collaborating with, rather KEREA and other partners have been collaborating with the government on, at least the State Department for Energy. So there's policy and regulatory advocacy, market development and investor confidence, capacity building and skills development, and of course, knowledge exchange. And we thank you for actually demonstrating this and showing us the importance of associations in ecosystem building. And so I'd like now to turn over to our panelists. So in this section, we're going to hear from the panelists. And the panelists, of course, they introduce themselves. There's Yemi from Ethiopia. There's Cynthia from Kenya. And there's Paddy from Uganda. We are just missing one panelist from Rwanda, but we hope that he'll be able to join us as we proceed. And so I'm going to start with the first question, and this is to all our panelists. The thing is, we want to understand the ministries, of course, at least in Kenya, they do collaborate on productive uses, but we do want to understand how your association or the association that you work in has influenced national or county PUA policy and or investment. And so we'd like to give you at least 2 or 3 minutes each to tell us this, and perhaps you can start with Cynthia, who's closer home, and then we'll go to you, Paddy, then we'll go to Yemi.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. So I think just going back also by what George has said, we've been working very closely with the Ministry of Energy and other ministries. George, can you mute? Okay, thank you. So what I was saying is we've been working very closely with the Ministry of Energy here in Kenya and together with other ministries. So because of the PUA conversations that we've been having and the developments in the productive use of renewable energy, emerging issues, which is one of the emerging technologies or issues that have been going on. We have been able to bring ministries together. So as Kerea, we have a committee which has quarterly engagements, and those quarterly engagements we have something called IGC, that is Intergovernmental Committee meetings, where we get to speak about our day-to-day engagements with our members, SMEs, and even financial institutions, and also much about standards of these products in the market. So we've been able to promote acceleration of usage of this product, access through financing, and that is through the convenings that we've had, not only with the Ministry of Energy, but with the other stakeholders in the industry, like the banks that I've mentioned and other SMEs. And also we've been able to have really deep conversations with the standards bodies, like Kenya Bureau of Standards, to just ensure that the standards of the products that are in the market are actually of the right quality. So ideally, we are saying we've really been able to bring these stakeholders together to make sure that we have an environment where the businesses can thrive, and accessibility and quality really comes top of the list. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. And you've talked about standards quite a bit. Perhaps, Paddy, you could tell us about how you've engaged on standards and other ways that you've also engaged with the Uganda Energy Ministry.
Okay, thank you very much. I think to start with, the question is, how has associations influenced PUE in the past? I think for you to be able to understand the realm of Uganda, it would be very good for me to highlight for you our energy access profile. Just to tell you that electricity access in Uganda is about 57%. And out of this, over 38% comes from off-grid solutions and majorly solar. And I am speaking from the office, or I'm speaking from the Uganda Solar Energy Association, that brings together all these off-grid energy companies that have been providing these solutions, that have really made a leap in Uganda's electricity access schedule, to the extent that we contribute more than the grid that is majorly led by the government. So I think to give you that simple background shows how the level of involvement of private sector, the level of involvement of USAID and the member companies in making sure that energy access works in Uganda. And now to go direct to the question that was asked for me, I think there is a lot that we have done. First of all, the existing PUE roadmap for Uganda was developed we partnered with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, and of course our partners, Google, the Global Grid Lighting Association, to develop it. So it has been a joint mandate. While the government, of course, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development is responsible for policy development, but I would say there has been very tight engagement with the private sector, which is us, and we have been able to produce that with support from Google. Besides that, of course, there are a lot of engagements that we have had. We have a project that we are working on, we're implementing with Google called the PUE, the scaling up of productive renewable energy. And this project, we have what we call PUE working group meetings. And it is these meetings that have brought traction for PUE in Uganda currently, because the discussions we have there on standards, just like City has said, the discussions we have there on investment, when we bring investors in the room, we bring PUE companies in the room, we bring government in the room, we bring development partners in the room in these PUE working group meetings to have one-on-one engagements, to create those synergies for stakeholders to understand what is happening, to have these presentations, mega presentations of data, what is happening in the sector. For investment in PUE to happen, we have to make sure we know, for example, the demand patterns, supply patterns. All these presentations we've been having them in the working group meetings. And it is from these working group meetings that government is getting insights, because these working group meetings happen, and we invite the Ministry of Energy and other ministries, Ministry of Trade, the authorities, Uganda Revenue Authority, Uganda National Bureau of Standards, to make sure that we understand that the policy actions that can really leapfrog, that can really uptake PUE. And now that the government is in the process of developing the PUE strategy, the working group meetings, the takeaways from meetings are informing this critical step very, very much. And so I would say it has been more of, yes, government-led, but also private sector supported, and you say are leading on this. And of course, getting away from that, the market activations, market awarenesses that the Uganda Solar Energy Association has been doing, different exhibitions in different regions, demonstrations of these different PUE solutions, the likes of solar water pumps, people seeing them. There's this saying that Africans want to see, yeah. So for us, we are the people that go there in the communities and let them see, demonstrate these solutions. We demonstrate the solar dryers, demonstrate the irrigation systems, and show the farmers how they work. So building, of course, on the different projects that we have onboarded, now we are co-partners on the Power for Food partnership that is led by SNV and funded by the IKEA Foundation. Now we are doing trainings of technicians. We know that I like what engineer has submitted from the Ministry of Energy, Kenya, that PUE cannot succeed without technicians. Now we are training technicians on how they can troubleshoot, how they can repair and maintain some of these PUE products, so that at the end of the day, while we say that we need traction, we have those technicians that can support in the troubleshooting, so that the real market can really blossom. I thank you. I know I don't have a lot of time, but I would be willing to give you more in case you need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paddy. That was really useful to understand the really important partnerships that are useful on the 4 key areas that engineer also spoke about. And thank you for sharing your experience. And now let's hear from Yemi. What's the situation like in Ethiopia? Please just respond to the same question. Yemi, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. So to answer the question, I think somehow we have the same experience with Uganda. The first step that we did is we developed a national roadmap for scaling up Pure in partnership with Google, which was then endorsed by the government, which is the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Water and Energy. This was a good base to lobby change, and we worked closely with these government entities to implement some big policy changes that changing the pure product market. And then we make sure that we get exemptions for these technologies, import duty exemption. Any pure related, especially with agriculture products, is now exempted. But there are some technologies that are not. So we are working towards advocating achieving exemptions on the technologies that are not exempted in relation to Pure. And also, we have been working, being the center of the stakeholders. We act like a multi-stakeholder platform. We connect stakeholders, different stakeholders, including governments, development partners, financial institutions, and other associations and experts on different policy advocacy events, and which is helping us to bring every stakeholders to discuss policy changes. And in relation to standards, we have finished developing a standard for solar water pump by mobilizing our networks and establishing technical team. It has been finalized, but having a problem on testing facilities in Ethiopia. I think this may be one of the areas, maybe we will answer this on later on. This is something that we can collaborate with different other associations. And something that we also do is on, there's a World Bank funded program, which is huge, called Adali. It was only focusing on lighting, not including productive use of renewable energies. But after our long advocation work, now Pure is included, and there's a fund allocated to Pure now. So this is also one of the association's achievements that we did, and also we also design different kinds of mechanisms or financing projects so that it can be an example for other partners to be duplicated. So a de-risking mechanism, which we are currently working with SNV, with a funding partners fund be given to a financial institution to de-risk. Banks now are being able to give loans to farmers or end users with free interest rates. So our main role on this is we also go to deep rural areas and create demand. So when we do that, we bring financial institutions, TVET graduates, energy and agriculture bureaus, suppliers, we bring all of them together and make them communicate and make sure that it all comes together. So I believe these are some of the projects closely related to Pure, creating opportunities for us to collect data, platforms that can in turn change the policies on investment and business in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yemi. That was really clear. And yes, the session is being recorded and will be shared later. We really appreciate you sharing your experiences, and we do want to hear a bit more from you. I know there are specific questions that each of you may have. Please put them on the chat box and we'll try and respond to them. If you do see Paddy, Valerie, Cynthia, if you do see a question, Engineer Nyongayo, you can respond to, please respond to it. Otherwise, I'll go to the second question that I have for you. And I think it builds on my first question. There's the advancement of Pure adoption as an association. You're a membership association. Most of you are membership associations. And so I know there are a number of barriers that you may face when you're trying to advance Pure. We've already seen Paddy calling it PUE. We've already seen some people calling it Pure. And so are these challenges, or what are some of the barriers that you face, especially when it comes to policy and investment kind of decisions? And so perhaps I'll start with Paddy, then go to you, Yemi, and then I'll go to Cynthia.
Yes, thank you very much, Anne. I think talking about productive renewable energy and its adoption in mainly Africa here, it wouldn't be very open for me if one was not talking about the high upfront costs that is required for one to venture into PUA. Colleagues, you will know that these other solutions, the lighting solutions, solar home systems, we have quite cheaper solutions that go to over $100, talking about maybe in USD. But for PUE solutions, the solar water pumps, solar irrigation kits, the dryers, the refrigerators, they're quite expensive to venture into. That's why you'll see that membership associations, and my colleagues will maybe agree with me, that you'll see that in a membership association, you'll have over 300 members. And those ones that are very inclined in PUE will be over 50 because it is quite expensive to venture into. Yes, companies are diversifying, but diversification means you have to almost triple your inventory. You have almost to triple your investment to make sure that you have those solutions in place. I know that there are very many projects that are trying to unlock this, especially on financing. Like for us here in Uganda, we have the Electricity Access Club project that is funded by the World Bank and the government of Uganda. A huge project, $638 million project that is trying to subsidize productive renewable energy and making sure that energy service companies have at least some money that they can borrow at a cheaper interest rate, and they invest in productive renewable energy. And of course, all these partners like that, government tries to do this because they understand very well that, of course, productive renewable energy has the capacity to cause economic growth, quicker economic growth, productivity increasing, And of course, the money, people getting more money and of course getting more produce. But of course, the biggest issue has been on financing. If it wasn't for these other small projects that come in and try to create affordable financing, we would be very behind. So the biggest problem for adoption and for companies to diversify has surely been financing. Because going to the policy part, I think the policy part is going with, of course, the efforts of the government and private sector like us. There's been some good progress. You have heard our colleague from Ethiopia has told you about tax exemptions. They're also here. In Uganda, we have successfully gotten some tax exemptions. Now, last year, on the 1st of July, 2025, government of Uganda, again through our advocacy, they removed stamp duty levy on these solutions, because we understand that people were paying a lot of money because most of these POE solutions are sold on pay-go, and someone was paying over 15,000 Uganda shillings for every sale that they make. So removing such stamp duty levies are making life a little bit easier for end users, a little bit easier for companies to trade. But of course, I would say that access to patient finance is a critical challenge. And I think the partners and the people on call, it is high time for us to just get out of our offices and then start thinking what really works. I was talking to a colleague and they told me money is stuck in the computers, money is stuck into systems. But can we make sure that the money goes to the companies, energy service companies? Can we make sure that the money goes to the end users that need these solutions? Otherwise, the industry is now ready, and this is the time for us to be very creative enough to make sure that people get the money to buy these solutions. I thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate those sentiments. Yemi, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So to mention the Ethiopian contexts of what kind of barriers that our members face is the first, and I always say this, but it might not be on the case for other African countries, but for us, forex access shortage is one of the biggest challenges. It makes it hard for suppliers to have consistent inventory, which leads to suppliers relying on government or NGO orders where forex is specifically provided. So this is one challenge, and the other is financial and capital constraints. So suppliers struggle to access working capital from local banks because of this high collateral and interest rates. There is a limited awareness from the end user side, so demand creation is often the weakest link in the value chain. And sometimes suppliers' costs become high in creating demand. Without informed demand, sustainable market growth is impossible. So that's why, as an association, we are going to deep rural areas and trying to create demand ourselves. And the other is like the previous panelist has mentioned, high upfront cost of these technologies is also a problem for the end user, with the lack of tailored loan products, inconsistent implementation at regional bureaus, banks. This problem is sometimes we are still fighting to have a sustainable solution. And maybe the final one is data availability. It's hard for investors and suppliers to invest in a venture where the available data is fragmented and in some cases unreliable. We are also working to make sure there is an authenticated, verifiable data that is accessible to investors and other parties. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Yemi. I see a number of questions on the chat box, and Dr. Melania Chiponda has written something on the chat box. Perhaps you can respond to that, Paddy. Yeah, you can also put all other questions on the chat box, anything that you may have. We'll go to you, Cynthia, and I don't know if you're still able to speak. Because I know you dropped a bit, so please go ahead and let us know what the barriers are.
Thank you, Anne, once again. So some of the barriers that we face, first and foremost, looking at Pure consists both energy and agricultural produce. Agricultural appliances. One, because if you look at like solar pumps, for instance, you use it by solar. You use solar to power it, and on the other hand, use it as an agricultural appliance. So one key thing that I see here is lack of pure specific frameworks, because these two fall in between sectors, that is overlapping mandates between energy and agriculture. And on that basis, you find that as you go down, because we have been working with the counties also, you realize that most of the counties are embracing agriculture more, and the energy bit of it is just somehow like a drop in the ocean, yet we are saying pure falls in both. So just really being able to say that how can we ensure that one, these overlapping mandates are actually taken care of, number one, and number two, just also being very clear on specific policy frameworks that fall between the two because of the different sectors that this belong in. And now that leads us to the question of, do we find the taxes really being consistent? Yes and no. There's inconsistent in tax treatment because renewable energy and agro-processing equipment, across the counties, and it's because of the reasons that I've just stated earlier. The other thing is the policies still within agriculture and energy drives the conversations really. Energy planning, as we see, is often supply focused, like Yemi had mentioned, and that's because of the grid access and not demand driven. And while agriculture it's everywhere, it really disintegrates, decentralized with the renewable energy solutions. So you find our national government and the county government really having that, like an overlap or what would I say, like really not being aligned to how the two should be treated. Distribution in the rural areas, that is also a challenge really, because in the urban setup, like in Nairobi, you find all these companies are here, but they are all not within the rural setup. So distribution of these products within the rural setup is quite a challenge, except for a few organizations that are already there. And that also leads to an after-sales challenge, because if I buy a product in Nairobi and go and use it up country, when now I have a problem with the product and I have to bring it back for repairs, I think that is where my challenge as a user begin, because then I have to transport it all the way back. So that really affects the distribution, or really like accessibility of these products within the rural setup. The other thing is, we realize that generally our policies are not very consistent. And we know sometimes it's because of the government of the day. We'll find that this time around, like last year, we got an exemption in 90% of the products. But this year, we know it's another time again. We are still not very sure of what's going to happen. But you're saying, if these policies were consistent, and it means affordability would really be very predictable, would be even accessibility would be very predictable, and even more people would be willing to invest, in such products, or even to be willing to be distributors of those products. So you find that because of that inconsistency in the tax treatment, it's neither here nor there. We can push, and we ideally push as Kerea. We lobby for our members. We lobby for generally the public, because even if you're lobbying for our members, everyone else who is using the products get to also benefit from the tax exemption that we get. But every time you're not very sure what's going to happen next year. If you are bringing your container now, you're not very sure of in the next 3 months, if it arrives after June, then what will happen? You know, so that inconsistency is really an issue. And generally financing, we have heard from our users, SMEs, individuals, that accessing financing is really a challenge. One, on the SME side or MSMEs, most of them are not investor ready, or they do not know what to do to access finance. The banks have been warming up lately, but the warming up is still not very warm, you know. So you find that people are still trying to figure out how they can get financing. And on the other end, also on the user side, it's the same thing, you know. So if the MSME or the SME is not able to get financing, and they have to dig deeper or something like that into their pockets or get other sources of financing, it means again that the price of the product at the end of the day will be more expensive than it would have landed. So yeah, those are some of the issues that we are facing. And I think Paddy and Yemi have also talked quite much about more or less the same things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a few more questions for our panelists. We've taken note of a lot of the issues. Cynthia, I really appreciate your point on policy incoherence, especially between national and subnational, but the aspects around financing and all that you have all kind of mentioned as similar challenges across the terrain. These are things we've taken note of. Please look at the Q&A section and respond to some of the questions whenever you're able to. This is to you, Cynthia, Paddy, and Yemi, and even Engineer Nyongayo. All right, so I'm going to go to a few more questions. We might not finish the questions that we had for you so that we can hear from maybe one or two members who are in the meeting. But the next question that we have for you, our speakers, is you know, we feel like there are a number of opportunities for collaboration. You've already mentioned this, so maybe we could anchor them around regional kind of opportunities, the regional opportunities and enablers for kind of collaboration. I think Yemi already spoke about standards and, you know, the lack of testing facilities. Then we could also anchor it on Mission 300, which has all these national energy compacts that are being developed. And so what are some of these opportunities you feel are there? We'll start with you, Yemi, and then we'll go to Paddy and Cynthia. Please respond to whether, you know, regional enablers and or Mission 300 and the National Energy Compacts. Over to you, Yemi, first.
Okay, thank you so much. So the Mission 300 Ethiopian Energy Compact looks really good opportunity for the private sector. And it shows that private sector has a big role on the plan. The private sector is the primary driver for off-grid solutions, which are targeted to provide around 30% of the last mile access needed to reach the national 75% coverage goal. So now it includes Pure on 2025. Pure penetration was less than 2%, and now the compact targets 50% by 2030, which is a good thing because previously Pure were never in the targets of the national electrification plans. So as an association, we have a very big role in this. We can contribute a lot. The first one is on implementation. From our experience, there will be a lot of challenges when it is going to be implemented. Therefore, by participating from the beginning of implementation plan to advocacy, policy reform, we will have a big role. And we plan to participate on capacity buildings for our members and do different stakeholders coordination work. It can be by organizing different kinds of platforms for discussions, multi-stakeholder platforms, and so on. So, and also in terms of market intelligence, providing insights about the private sector and advocate constant policy reforms. As we see on the ground level challenge, and voicing them out will be our responsibility. And like you said, standardization is one of the biggest. Pure technologies needs to be standardized because there are a lot of substandard products in the market. Just like we are doing on the solar water pump standard, we are planning to do all pure technologies standard development. Yeah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Paddy.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to get it from our good previous presenter, I think talking about the energy compacts that are being developed by countries, and I have I think the honor, the chance to have been a part of the review, the people who are reviewing the one for Uganda, which specifically speaks a lot, and it is a very good document. You know that behind the curtains of these energy compacts is that we know that Africa is lagging behind on electricity access, and so the Mission 300 is here to make sure that at least we get more 300 million people get access to electricity. And so for me, when you check the one for Uganda, speaking about Uganda, you see that in pillar 2, you see that want to impress distributed renewable energy and clean cooking for last mile access. And then they go specifically for mainstreaming productive of renewable energy and energy efficiency in off-grid and weak areas. And for us, when you speak about off-grid and of course even grid as Uganda Solar Energy Association, and as like I introduced to you, I told you that electricity access in Uganda here over 38% comes from off-grid solutions that we basically provide, as you say. You can see that we have a very, very big part to play in making sure that this happens. And for us, I think what we could do is in the project the designs of our projects, we could be more or less integrating productives of renewable energy. For example, when you have mini grids, when we develop mini grids, our minds could be pointing at how can we make sure that we have some solar milling, maybe some milling solutions attached to them, so that people can at least get some income, use the electricity they have to make some money. So it is about designing projects focusing on how can we make sure that, you see, because there is again providing electricity and people don't even have the capacity to pay. Talking about affordability now. So once we integrate in productive renewable energy, we see that we can solve a lot of issues. Affordability will come in because we'll use that electricity to make some money. You know, maybe of course food production will increase because we'll use the same electricity to power the same energy to power what? To power agriculture, to power our SMEs, you know, to empower the youth. Uganda here, unemployment is very high. Our population is dominated by youth. 70% of population is youth. So how can we make sure that we get them in the value chain of employment through the use of productive use of renewable energy, through the use of the energy that we're going to give these people? So now this comes to us, of course, as government leading us, but again, you know, at least our government has been doing well with making sure that there's engagement with private sector and mostly USAID. So now it comes to us in the project designs. We are going to incorporate PUE, productive of renewable energy, in the designs of the project, so that really we can achieve much and the sustainability can come in. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Very similar to what Yemi said, it has to be at the design phase, and it's good to know that you are involved in the planning and the review of the National Energy Compact, which I feel is also an amazing thing that associations are doing or supporting. And so, Cynthia, I'd like you to come in on some regional opportunities in just a short, maybe minute or so that we can now go to our attendees and we can hear from one or two. So what do you feel are some of the regional enablers for collaboration among associations and even within the mission, if at all, Mission 300?
Thank you, Anne, once again. So I think there is room for joint policy advocacy at regional level, you know, where we can align our position as a region. Yemi has talked on standards, which I think that's really key, standards and certifications, including the tax treatments and incentives on pure technologies, considering that their plans are far and wide, you know, milling, water, etc., so that you can have a harmonized voice within the region. But Also, just looking at the M300 is quite a significant opportunity, but as a region, we also just must be very aware of everything that's happening to ensure that it's not a risk to the private sector. And when I say that, our voices, or rather the voices of the private sector, should be heard within these conversations, because my thought is that these conversations must go beyond grid expansion, but also just get to integrate productive use of renewable energy, storage, and our demand simulation. And I think that's where all our minds are as a region. And as associations, again, while we are representing, we'd like our voices to be heard, the private sector voices. The realities should really go deep down at the design stage, like Paddy has mentioned. Also ensuring that the regulatory and fiscal incentives are also included, while we look for integration all round, and also ensure that you are monitoring the implementation to ensure commitments that actually translate into action. Otherwise, this could just come and we treat it as any other business, and it goes off our radar when everything is said and done. We have a lot of things to look at into as sharing data, because if we do not have data as a region data that we can rely on as a region, then even if we raise our voices out here and speak on the table, on those tables, and say on those rooms, and say exactly what we feel should happen or how the implementation should be, then I don't think we'll have a strong case. So just harmonization, having correct data, or rather data that is reliable, and having joint advocacies around that area. Yeah, I think that's all I would add on that. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. The mention of data and implementation, monitoring of implementation, really important. And thank you to you, Paddy and Yemi, for your inputs. So now I'd like to just I've seen some questions in the chat box and some questions in the Q&A box. So for you, Paddy, are you able to just answer live? I'm not sure that they're able to. Valerie, you can help me with that. And even Seth has asked a number of questions. Sheila has also asked a question in the chat box, and these ones in the Q&A box, these ones can be responded to. And then I'm going to move to the chat box where we had maybe one or two questions, two of them. So the first one that I would really like us to respond to, and perhaps, I don't know whether we can hear from you, Dr. Mela, if you've asked about de-risking lending to rural women entrepreneurs without reinforcing paternalistic credit controls. Is it possible for us to unmute you and you can talk about this? Valerie, can you help me with that? Sorry about that. So there's the first question by Dr. Mela. Valerie, are you able to okay, Dr. Mela, please go ahead. And then we also have one question from Nicholas Abuya of Christian Aid. So you'll please also just unmute once Dr. Mela is done and ask your question. Go ahead, Dr. Mela. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I've allowed, yeah. Dr. Mela, I think you can speak now.
Hi.
Hi.
You can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so what I'm asking is about, the economies in the rural areas that part of the productive use of renewable energy is to build the local economies, which the national grid cannot reach. And part of the Mission 300, they were actually talking about electrifying some of the rural areas. And there was also mention of the of the decentralized renewable energy. But then we cannot not talk about the issue of investments. And for me, the biggest question is about the controls, right, that end up being so much. I know that usually they are well intentioned, that the intention is to ensure that there are no losses and all that, but sometimes they end up being a constraint, they end up being paternalistic. And my question is, how can we reduce the risk to the rural women entrepreneurs who are employing the decentralized renewable energy systems without having controls which are harmful, which will end up being harmful? How can we, I don't know if you get the question, that how can we remove the risk, or how can we reduce the risk without imposing credit controls which end up being harmful or which end up being counterproductive? Thank you, Anne.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mela. I think we got the question and I'll allow Paddy to respond to that. But before you do, Paddy, let's hear from Nicholas. Nicholas, can you come in? Let me see if you can speak. 1 second. Yeah, Nicholas, can you come in?
Yeah, thanks, Anne, and thanks all the presenters for the wonderful presentation. I've got a very quick question. Oftentimes we hear about untapped potential of renewable energy in Africa, but it's not really being upscaled at speed as expected. So then the question that arises is, what could be the issue? Are there data gaps that need to be addressed or to be bridged to advance pure, as we term it here? And do we have enough information about the demand and supply side of things, yeah, to inform market intelligence? What exactly are we doing to help in bridging these gaps? So if the wonderful presenters could really help me in this, so that I know what efforts are in place or strategies to really address this gap. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I realize we have like a minute or so left. I know we started maybe 4 minutes over time. If you can just allow us to have those 4 minutes to respond to these questions. So perhaps I'll ask you, Paddy, to respond to Dr. Mela's question. We know how the pay-go model was abused, you know. We know that that's been a going concern. So what can you say about these credit aspects and how we can avoid them being paternalistic, especially for these rural communities?
I think if I have gotten the question very well from Dr. Melania, how can we de-risk lending to rural women entrepreneurs without reinforcing paternalistic credit controls? Well, I would say I think we need to shift from evaluating people based on maybe their, maybe on character. There is a model that has worked in Uganda here with some bank called BRAC. For them, they attach repayment schedules with seasonal cash cycles, for example, and that works for rural women, and they are doing well in Uganda here with the rural women. For example, they give you some money to do something, maybe to buy these systems, and you'll be paying maybe on market days or maybe on the harvest times. So that is not about maybe how much money you have on their balance on the account. It is not about how much you have done, but what you have, the system that you have. And so there is already partnerships between those financing companies and then the energy service companies that are providing these PUE solutions. So now they shift from this thing of how much do you have, but can you give us some little when you get produce, can you be paying back on those when you get results? Because for PUE, when we speak about PUE, we estimate that when you use a PUE product, at least your productivity, you will not be affected very much by weather, and somehow your productivity will increase. So we expect some produce. So I think that's when we should expect their repayments to come. And I think that model has worked quite well in the rural areas, especially when she talks about the women. And for it does not look at, because we know like now in some tribes in Uganda, women do not have land, so they may not have collateral security. And for them, they do not go to those paternalistic issues, social issues. They go direct to the woman herself. What can she offer after using this solution? And I think for me, that I would say is part of the solutions we can put forward. And maybe my colleagues can go ahead. And maybe to answer, to briefly comment about what Nicholas has said, we understand that data and insights is very critical in investment, increasing investment to POE. And for us, you asked, what have you done? We, with partnership with GOGLA, the Global Free Lighting Association, for us in Uganda here, now we're going to be publishing what we call annual POE market reports. We analyze the supply side and the demand side side of the industry. I have led that. I've collected data from POE companies to try to understand what is happening, which regions have higher demand. For example, investors want to know, where can I put my money? If I want to establish a business today, POE business, which type of, for example, which type of products should I deal with? Should I deal in water, solar pumps? Should I deal in solar dryers? So all that we are trying to unpack. And for the good news is our report is going to be published very soon. And I think it will give some highlights of what is happening in the sector, which regions have higher demands, which products are doing very, very well in these areas, which policies are working and what is not working. I think there is something being done on that, on making sure that we have data. And also, as you say here, we're also working on what we call a database update, to make sure that once you come to us, you tell us, hi, how many, for example, how many solar water pumps were sold last month? That is a key statistic that can inform investment. We should be able to give it to you. So we are working on, in support from the Power for Food project, Power for Food partnership of SNV, we are working on making sure that we have that system that aggregates all those details for the partners to use for investment, and the government, of course, for planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Cynthia. Let's hear from you on both questions, and we'll go to Yemi.
Thank you, Anne. Paddy has mentioned quite a bit, quite a lot, in terms of what I would have really talked about. But we also have the microfinance, which operate, have partnered with women groups here in Kenya, in different locations, where they have something like, in Kenya, we call it like chama. Chama is just group of women who come together for a common purpose. And in those chamas, they are able to, get products supplied to them through the microfinance organizations. The monies are collected from those through the chamas and channeled to the bank, so that's how they are repaying for the products that they have picked. And it's usually within a given time. And you find that when you go into women's households, you find that at least they have these products continuously upgrading themselves, or getting into with having emerging technologies. I think that has worked really well. I've seen that really work. Of course, we know that PAYGO has also really played a big role, but it's also been abused in a way, like Annie said. So those two, I think, have really played a key role, especially for the rural setup, women in the rural setup. In terms of what we are doing in the gaps that we have noted the data, so Kerea has been working with GOGLA, just as Paddy has said. Our report is out. I think we're supposed to be publishing it this first quarter, to be launching it this first quarter, and really give people the whole feedback of what we gathered. And it has a lot of information in terms of the usage, in terms of the supply, because most of it was based on the supply and demand. So that will be out soon, Nicholas Abuya. But I would agree with you also that data is really a big issue. And the challenge here is that we have data all over the place. So for the purposes of scaling up the project that we've been doing in GOGLA, that was one of the activities that we've done. And we'll be sure to also ensure that you are part of that convening, so that you're able to get more insight, and also be able to, to gather, to be able to answer more. We've also been going deep into the rural areas, again, through Power for Food partnership. Again, like Paddy has said, it's basically the same thing we are doing across the region. So I'll not go deep into that because, as I've said, it's more or less the same thing that we are doing within the regions with the same partners in this case. Thank you.
Okay.
But in case you have any questions, kindly reach out to us. We'll be able to answer you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Cynthia. I realize we don't have a lot of time. Maybe we just go to you, Yemi, and then we can now close the webinar.
Okay, thank you. I know we don't have time, so I'll make it very short. In terms of data collection, now there's a change here in Ethiopia. The National Bank and the Ministry of Agriculture are now putting some risk-sharing finance mechanism to de-risk, so which is one of a big opportunity. And also the government is also working on digitalizing information of the rural communities, so that will be easier for financial institutions to make decisions. And I think it's the same for Ethiopia as well. Scaling, why Pure is not scaling is data gap is it takes the very big space, and everyone wants to pilot here and there. No one is learning from each other. So that's why we are creating a common platform for these pilots to communicate to each other and share success stories and challenges that they are facing, so that we can make it a national roadmap. And another problem is people are not, or institutions are not taking initiative. The ownership and the responsibility taking is one of the biggest challenges that we face. So as ISEDA, what we are doing is same with Paddy and Cynthia. We are collecting data, doing research, and publish concise learning about these projects, these distributions, about our suppliers' progress and everything. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. To you three, perhaps you have just one quick closing remark, and then we can close the webinar. Paddy, do you want to start? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you very, very much. And for me, I would say, how can we move PU in, maybe in how can it work for us? I think partnerships are very important. You have heard from our submissions on almost all associations. All the projects we are talking about have been out of the partnerships. And for me, I think in order for us to move forward, we should even streamline those partnerships. We must move from working in silos, working in, independently, to working together, so that we can really create, sustainable impact. Because you have had all these projects are about making sure that we have partners in front, making sure that we have partners that can help us make trainings, create those technical people that will be helping us to repair and maintain these PUE solutions we are trying to sell. And of course, have those partners that will invest money in us, so that we streamline advocacy, we streamline research, making sure that we have data, pure data available to help in policy, to help in investment planning. So, partnerships, I would say. Partnerships, I would say. Thank you very much, Anne.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Yemi, in a minute.
Yes. Okay. When we are together and when we work synergistically, our voices are louder and our influence is higher and our resources are infinitely more than we can imagine. So that being said, I know there are many things we need to clarify. Bringing these ideas of unity onto ground, actually make them a reality, and it all starts from conversations like this. And I would like to thank CLASP and also Keria for organizing this panel. So thank you so much.
Right, thank you so much, Cynthia, and then we'll go to Engineer Nyongayo.
Thanks again, and I think mine is simple. So regional collaboration, like what we've been doing before, which has it's not been really strong. I think we need to move from dialogue or calling each other and telling each other it's happening, what's your thought, etc., to coordinated action. We need to action things. Whatever we come up with, it's action as a region. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Engineer Nyungayo.
Thank you very much. The need for partnerships cannot be overemphasized. We need to incorporate energy efficiency because we know when the systems their plants are energy efficient, they draw less energy and therefore lower the cost of installations. And then we need harmonization across the region so that we don't have proliferation of substandard appliances from one region to another. Thank you very much. And as government, we remain committed to working with associations to promote renewable energy, not only in Kenya, but in East Africa. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this has been good. We've taken 12 minutes of your time. I don't want to take any more. Thank you to Kerea that is co-hosting this with CLASP. Thank you to all of you for all your notes, for all the information. Engineer Nyungayo for gracing this event, the webinar, as well as Yemi and Paddy. We really thank you. We'll have a number of other convenings in the course of the year together with Kerea, and so we'll keep you updated on this, and we'll let you know. Thank you to all our attendees and the panelists. So we're going to close this. Thank you so much, Valerie, for the closing remarks, and also to Marion of CLASP for the support that she's provided. So thank you to you all. I'm going to close the webinar now. We'll have further engagements. We'll share the recording.